I have to give my permission to be recorded. What? Okay.
It's true. It's the future of Zoom.
GDPR.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of SDRescue, where every week we break down a real sales email being sent out in today's world, give feedback, and go through a rewrite so that you can improve how you're selling to others in today's digital world. I, as always, am Grayson Fulbright. Joining me is Austin Fuller, our co-host, and a special guest today. We have Ollie Whitfield from VanillaSoft, who himself is a master of the Crayola crowns and writing emails. Ollie, thank you so much for joining us today to do a breakdown.
Well, that intro, can I come back every week? I don't get introduced like that all the time. Wow. Thank you, guys.
I've been practicing. It took a couple rounds.
Love that.
So thank you, everybody who's joining us today. Today's email is going to be one of my own, one of the ones that I received in the inbox recently. And we're going to be going through my own rewrite, trying to keep some of the components of the original email and show a different and more concise way to get the job done. Austin, could you go ahead and share the screen? And if you want to, maybe you can read it out, read the original.
Sure thing. Hey there, Grayson. I'm from this company here. We're a limitless graphic design agency with an unorthodox business model, and we're keen to talk about how SD Revolution could benefit from our service. For a flat monthly fee of $424, we offer limitless graphic designs and revisions, a wide range of design services from social media ads to web banners, infographics to posters, brochures, and more. Regular contact with our team of experienced graphic designers, faster turnaround time. I appreciate it if you could take a look at our portfolio. If you have any questions regarding our service, scope of work, or how to take advantage of our 2-week trial, simply reply to this email. How about we get on a quick call? Schedule a meeting here on my calendar. I appreciate your time.
All right. I've got the color-coded version pulled up on my side here. And so to kind of open up and frame the reason why I chose this email, we have looked at emails like this in the past. And the way that I would boil this down is it's an email trying to sell what I would consider to be a much smaller, easier buy-in type of service, to where it's like you could probably close the deal on a single call if you are skilled enough and you find the right fit. And I think the issue, or the root of the issue here, is what we've talked about last time when we reviewed an email like this, which is essentially the idea of a magic bullet email, where you can tell the way that this person wrote it, that they're trying to both introduce themselves and then get you convinced into either a conversation or a conversion from the beginning of the email to the end. So one email, one closed deal. And I think if you think about the copy in this way, you can kind of understand some of the issues that you might be looking at in this original. And so the big picture thing that I wanted to focus on here, and Ollie, let me know your thoughts, is really talking about, like, if you do have a service or a product that is not enterprise level, you're not targeting people that are going to be signing 6-month, 12-month minimum contracts. If you're selling smaller products and it's more of a commodity service, you have to be careful how you're approaching the sales conversation, because even if it's a smaller price, it's still a B2B sale. And I still think that today's buyers have evolved beyond this idea of making an instantaneous purchase decision off of a single email in a 24-hour period.
Personally, when I look at this, in your color coding there's a massive lack of yellow. So throughout the whole thing, there's various little best practices, little tweaks that might make it a bit better. But the main systemic thing for me personally is that they talk about their design service, the way that it works, the price of it. But for each of those things, you can still ask why. Why is that there? Or why would you bring that up? Why did you send that to me? There's a lot of why about that. So it could be written differently. I'm sure that you'll hint on this a little bit in your rewrite, but are you happy with your design? And maybe, if possible, bring up literally one of your designs and like annotate it or something. and say, oh, look, like, I wonder if you thought about putting that bit here and change this layout a little bit, or change these colors, whatever it is, change the fonts. That kind of like, oh, that's why they're sending me this, because they think that their work could be better and would help us do better. That would at least sort of help me get, especially when I read the price, because there's not necessarily a level in my head of, is this worth it, period. Then I get to ask myself that question again on price, which price is a stumbling block for a lot of deals, even when you are convinced. So that they've sort of missed that quite badly, but a couple tweaks, and I think it could be a fair bit better.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, to be honest, this email would be a little better positioned, I think, if they didn't overload the recipient so much with information at the beginning. Because essentially in the first like 2 lines, it's saying like, hey, we are an XYZ service provider and we think that you could benefit from our service. Here's the price and here's what we offer. So like 3 lines, and you've basically gotten like all 3 stages of a pitch that like they're assuming you're gonna digest and absorb before you move on to like take a look at their portfolio and try to schedule a call. And I think this kind of goes to that symptom of trying to have these like magic bullet emails, to where salespeople try to skip steps and say like, I don't need to get on a call with them, or like, I don't need to go through a journey before I get to the pricing. Like, let me just tell them what I do. Let me just tell them how much it costs. Let me just tell them the benefits. And then the people that are in market will just immediately close. Like, it's just a done deal. And I think a lot of people still have that mindset about sales, especially those who are doing what's considered like mass market, where they're sending cold emails at scale that are generic to just wide audiences, just trying to net and catch what they can that's in market. And I think like while there is a reason to go that direction, there's always going to be a reason to automate things in the sales process, or when you're generating leads, there's always going to be a reason to be a little more direct in how you start the sales process. But I think what this email really identifies for me is that they're not understanding that there is a sales process. Because one thing we haven't touched on is this could be a freelancer, this could be a full-blown agency. But regardless of whether it is, in my opinion, a freelance designer and a design agency goes through the exact same sales process, just one's more complicated and has higher stakes than another. So a freelancer sees a job or reaches out about a job, has to convince them that they're the right fit, first of all, and that it meets their needs. Then they have to talk about pricing, go through a proposal of how to pilot it and go. It's the same thing with the design agency, except it's a little bit more at stake, and we're actually dealing with an entire company and a brand here. And I think that if this person simply would have identified that there is a sales process that needed to happen, and maybe kind of took some of the things out of this email that I think they should probably hold to their chest until later, this would have been a much more concise email. Even taking out for a flat monthly fee and taking out the bullet points, I think would have been a big help. Because while it's not a perfect email saying, hey, we're a design agency and I think that we could benefit, I would appreciate you take a look at our portfolio. How about we get on a quick call? You know, while that's not the best way to approach it, I feel like just taking out that middle section that includes too much information is enough to at least make this a presentable pitch.
This is a really good example of a salesperson or a freelancer selling against themselves. What I mean by that is they rely on the novelty of a flat rate fee, unlimited design offer to convince the person to reply to the email. And because that's an unconventional model, right? Typically a designer is priced by the hour, or it's a scoped project, or you know what I mean? There's conventional ways of engaging in graphic design projects. And so what they're relying on in this email is that flat monthly fee, which is for unlimited designs rather reasonable. You know, I mean, graphic designers go for like 25 an hour approximately. And so, you know, if you think about, if you just did back of the napkin math, like, wow, that's a lot of potentially a lot of design for $424. So I think that is a big issue. Like Grayson said, it shows either a complete ignorance of a sales process, or someone who has only ever engaged with people who have not done business with them because of price or engagement model. which is typical of a freelancer, right? Someone, they'll scope projects or send out estimates, or they'll get on consultations, and someone will be like, I just don't have the money, or I don't have this, or whatever, right? And they're not understanding all of the steps and the processes required to get someone to say yes. They just think that, hey, if I scope this and give them a price, it's a toss up to whether or not they say yes. So I think there's a lot of things going on here. So this is somebody who's saying, hey, let's fix that broken model and offer something that I think is really novel. Except the fact of the matter is that, like, I think what Ollie was saying a little earlier about not having a lot of yellow pain points, nobody cares how novel your model of engagement is if it's irrelevant to the problem they need to solve.
As well, if you took all of the bullet points, so that's kind of, let's throw every reason up into the email, and one, maybe more, might be of note. What I can picture is, after this email, the follow-up, if there's going to be one, will be just checking if you read my last email, that type of message. And then maybe there'll be another one, and it'll be the whole, are you the right person, or this will be my last email, something quite standard like that. But what you have actually there is 4 different angles. So this could be the first outreach. The next one could be, are you frustrated by the limited hours that you get from your current way of creating your designs? The next one could be, are you limited to certain mediums instead of getting infographics, brochures, posters when you would like that? Is that true? The next one could be, are you working with an agency that just gives you stuff and that's it? There's no contact, there's no back and forth. Are you frustrated by the turnaround? That's 4 different things, 4 different reasons that you could say yes, but you've just taken all of them and removed that from your follow-up cadence, and now you've just got one shot at landing all 4 of those things.
Yeah, and that's like a 2-sided problem, right? Because, like, one, having all of that together in one email, like you said, Ollie, like it reduces your ability to use other ammo later in the sequence. But then at the same time, the real problem here in this email is that it's 4 bullet points about 4 different things. So it's kind of like a switchboard, right? It's like the buyer or the prospect might look at bullet point 1 and resonate, and then look at bullet point 2 and be like, turned off. And look at bullet point 3 and be like, curious. And then look at bullet point 4 and not care at all. So it's like you're risking 4 different emotions and like potential like sales paths for different like problems, and you're mashing it all into one bullet point for them to have to absorb and digest before they can move on and take a next step with you. And I think that's a big mistake that many salespeople make in general, especially in like their first few steps. They tend to kind of like, it's like a blunderbuss. They load it all in. They got the biggest gun in the world and they let it all out. Email 1. It's like, boom, did I do it? And then if they didn't do it, they're out. That was their shot. They did it. And then it's just follow-up reminder emails for the rest of the cadence. And I think the way to solve that problem is to do exactly what Ollie suggested. Like, take the emails that you have, and usually most of your info will probably be in email 1 or email 2, and identify the specific topics and angles that you're mentioning here. And I agree with Ollie that all 4 of these bullet points could each be their own email with plenty of words talking in breadth about a topic that they care about, with a next step that they can choose to go through. All 4 bullet points. And I think that it's a mistake to try to just assume or have the lack of confidence that requires you to basically throw everything that you can at the prospect when you're getting to your pitch. And on a high level, in my opinion, that also indicates somebody that doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience selling in the industry. Because if you don't, like, at the pitch level, if you don't know how to make your pitch concise, or if you don't know how to like personalize the pitch to the specific company or the specific persona you're going after, buyers can pick up on that, especially buyers that get inundated with emails and have to deal with salespeople all the time. It's pretty easy to pick up on like you don't know what you're doing. And the way to get out of that is to stay focused, so that even if you do make a mistake in an email, or even if you are making a wrong assumption in an email, it's around one topic and it's not your whole thing.
Now you say that, I've just picked up on the end of it too. So there's actually 3 CTAs, which any marketing person would tell you 1 is better than 2, because that means you get 100% focus on 1. So if you make it 3, then that's definitely diluting who's going to do what. Just if I'm being dumb about it, I don't know which one to do. Do I do the portfolio? Maybe. Even the tonality of asking about the 2-week trial, it's not necessarily an advantage to me to try it because I don't know if it's good. But on the other side, if it's removing risk, that's good. So if I can say that, if they can hit on the fact that, you know, maybe I should try before I buy to make sure that the quality is there, to make sure that it is what they say it is, that's a bit more doable. And then the quick call, fair enough, that's quite common, but also probably nice to know how long they think quick is, because that could be 45 minutes, it could be half hour, even half hour I might think is a little much for me personally, who knows. But just by doing that, if this is a first email, which we don't know if it is, I'm assuming it is by the way it's written, I'd probably just go with the portfolio. And I would say something like, if any of this was of note, feel free to have a look at our portfolio here. I'll be in touch in a couple of days to see if you liked anything that you saw. And that's it. Don't ask for anything, because the higher commitment is high rejection. Low commitment is low friction, is easy. I can do that. I can click this link and I can say, don't really like the designs. Oh, I like them. And that's that. I don't have to reply if I don't like them, or I don't have to take the call or anything like that. But then it gives them, and again, an excuse to follow up. They can say, oh, hey, did you check the portfolio? And then 3 days later, they can hit the other angle if they didn't get a reply. It's just arming yourself to go long, because you know that one email, pretty unlikely to get the result that you want straight off the bat.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, this is kind of a symptom of them trying to wrap their entire sales process into one email. Because I think, like, you know, think about selling design services, right? Like, what are the 3 paths that you would ideally want a prospect to take? Like, A, check out your portfolio work, which is a click through. B, respond to the email. Or C, click through to schedule a call, right? And so it's kind of like it's almost like a laziness mixed with an ignorance, where there's like, this is what I want. I'm just going to, like, all out there. Here are 3 choices. And they don't really think about which one's best, which one should be focused on, and which ones they maybe could use later in the sequence. Cool. Austin, can we maybe scroll down to the rewrite? And if you want to give another shot at reading it, you've been our master reader today.
In a world where there are excellent cold emails. Yes. Like the movie announcer. Hey there, Grayson. Austin from this company here. I'm reaching out because we're offering marketing teams a 2-week trial of our limitless graphic design services. I wanted to see if your company would be interested. Here's just a few of the on-demand solutions you can access through our company. Limitless graphic design and revisions. Expand marketing channels from social and ads to infographics and posters. Get access to an experienced team of designers and marketing strategists. If your company has any specific needs here, let me know and I can create a customized trial that is personalized to what matters most for your team. Would you be interested?
Awesome. So I'd love to get your feedback, Austin and Ollie. But to kind of recap my thoughts on why I took this approach, I feel like out of everything we talked about in the original email, the big fail that they made is they buried their lead. So it's like, well, what was the actual point and the purpose of reaching out in that email? You know, people could click through in a portfolio, people could probably click to schedule a call, but the main purpose was to present the 2-week trial and to potentially generate an audience of trial users. And so I took that in stride and I said, okay, cool. Like, that's valuable. So there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to include that immediately in the intro as the reason why I'm reaching out. I think that's something to keep in mind with outreach, is like, sometimes it's awkward to include things in an intro, like saying like, hey, I noticed that your marketing leader recently left their position. Like, those types of intros are weird, but saying like, hey, we launched an XYZ free thing and I wanted to see if you'd be interested in it. You know, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with being direct when you have something to offer your audience. And then the reason why I left in the bullet points, but really just modified them, is I wanted to really show people that you don't have to completely rewrite these emails. I've heard before about SDRescue that, you know, we tend to take an email, even if it's going a certain direction, and we might modify it a bit and maybe even change the direction of the email just to make it better. And I wanted to show here that like you can take the same core ideas, even though it's 3 bullet points that, like Ollie pointed out earlier, these are 3 bullet points that could have been 3 different emails, and that's a mistake I took. I wanted to show here that even with the same ideas and the same fundamental concepts in the original email, you can reorganize and rewrite copy to where it's easier to absorb and it refocuses on things that the prospect would actually care about.
I'll bite. So I hear what you're saying, and I definitely appreciate some of the stuff that you removed. From a too long didn't read perspective, this is much more digestible if I want to read the whole thing. Previous one was kind of long. I can definitely see that being more than one phone screen size. I definitely have to do a whole scroll to read top to bottom on that. But this one, I think you could probably get all of it or close to all of it onto one screen. So that's definitely a plus. There's a few things that still, obviously, we could change the intro seller from company here. That's valuable preview text. So obviously the subject line, we're not sure what it is. But if it's a short one, you will definitely see seller from brand here in your inbox. But like you said, we're not rewriting the whole thing. Again, it still lacks the pain points, but this is a lot more. This is easier to accept. You're trying to lead with the 2-week trial thing instead of 3 different call to actions. There's not portfolio. There's not a call. The trial thing is kind of different. I've not actually heard that from a design company. I'm pretty used to getting video companies reach out and ask if we're satisfied with our video production and stuff like that. But I haven't really heard the trial thing. So in a way, there's better value statements and stuff like that. But that is unique and that's different. So I appreciate leading with that. And then, yeah, the way that you describe it, bullet points are a better word that I think. And would you be interested? I like that as a call to action. That's like we said before, low friction, low commitment, easy to say yes to. Would I be interested? Yeah, sure. Free something. I might get some images I can use. Let's do it. Or if I don't need to, then I'm not interested. But it wasn't a call. It wasn't a click on something that I'm not necessarily interested in. So I like the call to action especially.
Yeah, and I look at it and I go, I mean, that was actually my first thought is if someone, I would actually say yes to this right now. If there are any limitless graphic design agencies out there, just because we've recently lost some graphic design capability, but internally, I've never had somebody offer, hey, we'll design a bunch of stuff for you for free for 2 weeks. That's pretty novel. And again, the organization of the idea is much better. Everything in the email is there for a purpose that supports converting someone on the free trial. Whereas the other email tried to go in about 3 or 4 different directions. And as a result, had pieces in that email that supported each of those directions. And so it wasn't a cohesive flowing idea that ultimately cascades into me taking action, like responding yes or no to this email. So from that perspective, I think it works a lot better. And I think this shows how even something, if you look at the previous email, the offer was novel, right? It was decently unique and piqued curiosity just because the offer is structured in a compelling way. But even if you as a seller or as an SDR or as a freelancer or founder, you could have a compelling offer and completely destroy your odds of conversion just by how you structure your ideas and package it in your outreach. Like you can completely, like if you, like I would actually be comfortable sending an email like this, whereas I would never even think of hitting send on the one above. Because I know, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, it must be effective to some degree because people keep sending them, but I will make the inference that this one would convert at a significantly higher rate than the original.
I like a small possible tweak, but the second to last line, not the call to action, the one before, where you said that you could create a customized trial, personalized to what matters most to your team. So requires a little bit of input, and I say effort, I mean, it's a reply to an email, which they have to do anyway if they're going to get the trial. But that bit makes it easier to say yes, because it's going to be relevant, not just a cookie cutter trial. But possibly if we added some options there, and again, conscious of the word and character count, but for example, to make it easier, to give them some pre-baked ideas of what they could say, it could be Twitter images, or like, you know, website banners, or like give them one or two ideas of what those things could be. So they've, if I'm going to reply to this right now, create a customer's trial that is personalized to what matters most to my team. So I now think, what is my team doing? We do a lot of Twitter and LinkedIn. We do Facebook. We do Instagram. Not too many ads, but we have some ads going on in Terminus, so maybe an image for that. That's probably it. So those are 5 or 6 things that I could probably type up in an email and see if that works. But I don't know if it does, just on the way it's worded. But customized trial means I get to ask. So we were probably a small tweak for me, but without making that 5 extra lines, which probably is if I typed out how I said it.
No, but I mean, that is a really good point. And it's kind of a high level point, but yeah, I mean, I consider that to be the transition sentence, which is like basically like you reach out while you're reaching out, you give your pitch, and then you're trying to like lead them to the call to action, lead them to the next step. And I think that's a really good point that you made, that you can kind of at that place tee up how fast and how much momentum you want to be built with this next step. Because it all depends on your strategy, right? Maybe you're opening the floodgates and going after any and every e-commerce brand, but you need to qualify. So maybe it does make sense to say, hey, like, if I'm going to give you this trial, it would be great if you responded with a little bit more info about what you need, right? But if it's more like an account-based campaign where you know what's going on with these accounts, you know what budget they have and how valuable you are, I would agree with Ollie. I would say like there's no reason to make this any more complicated than it needs to be. I'd be happy to offer them more customization after they respond. But yeah, I would just be straight up direct. Would you be interested? My goal there is to get them to notice me and to have as many positive interactions with me as possible, not necessarily just their response. So I think that's a really good high level point to consider, is once you start getting better at writing and constructing sales messaging, you can start having a little control over the flow of what conversations you get, and which it's a really amazing thing, because most people, they tend to do one or the other. Either they really overqualify and they really only end up with the most in-market opportunities, or they don't qualify at all and are just trying to get conversations, and they tend to have quality issues. And I think what Ollie's talking about here, which is in the transition sentence of the email, is how you balance that. How do you balance the quality of responses you're getting with your ability to qualify these people as you're sending to them? And in my opinion, it's right there before the CTA. What do you need them to know, or what's the one caveat that they have to consider before you're willing to actually move forward with them?
Just quickly, Grayson, did you realize you wrote an AIDA email there? Did you try and do that? There's an acronym, AIDA. It's quite a popular copywriting technique.
No, I didn't. But
okay, so you did. We're offering marketing teams a 2-week trial. That's kind of attention. That's A. Then there's interest in the on-demand solutions company can offer. So that's I, interest. And then you have any specific needs there, customize the trial. D, that's desire. That's like, do I want to move forward? And then A is, would you be interested? Action. So am I interested? Yes, that's my action bit. So in a way, you like little off piece from other AIDA examples, but in the way you rewrote it, you definitely did it.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm not too good at memorizing the acronyms and templates of copywriting, but I've looked at them long enough to where that makes sense that I'd accidentally run into one of these. That's a good observation, Ollie. All right, so it looks like we got about a minute until we are at the top of the hour. So thank you to everyone who was able to join us live today. If not, make sure to check this out on our YouTube. We'll be posting these every week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And make sure to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Finally, if you have your own emails, if you have emails that you've written or ones that you've received and you'd like to have us dive in and do a rewrite, send them to us. Connect with Austin, myself, or hit up Ollie because he is a copywriting legend, and we'd be happy to not only give you some feedback on that messaging, but potentially get the email or maybe you on the show. Ollie, before we sign off, any last words or any place you want to send listeners to learn more about you and VanillaSoft?
Oh, well, I'm lucky to have a weird name. So if you search me on any social platform, you will definitely find me. I'm probably somewhere near the top, if not the first name. But yeah, just thanks guys for having me on, and I'm sure we'll get a few more cold emails we can review sometime soon.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, and have a great day.